Greetings everyone, this is Lodrik again, and this is our game War in the Pacific Admirals Edition. And today we will check the combat turn of 13th December 1941. So this is the match against Dojo, and let's check simply what happened. Here we can see the Dojo enter Aichang and take the base. This is at the end better for us, because if we are the owner of the base without forces inside, we will lose victory points over every turn. Yeah, so it's not really a handicap to lose that base, especially because there's no industry. Here we have again one of our smaller task forces trying to intercept fleeing cargo ships from Dojo's Pacific, or let's say Philippines area, maybe also some from Hong Kong. This is only simply cargo ship. Some torpedoes and it's done. This is mostly all west of Manila. Looks like a smaller old American destroyer and already burning. So, and we have here 3 heavy cruisers, so this will be a very simple victory. I put still 6 shell hits and a torpedo inside, but make not really much sense to check this kind of battles if it's so easy clear victory. This looks like a patrol ship, but also nothing can stop us or even try to hurt us, even if it comes close. So this is a cruiser mine layer. One more kill. There we saw that our fleets are arriving at Mersing, and I think at the end of this Navy turn we start the invasion, or the amphibious assault on Mersing. So this is a hunt, but we try to sink this DMS, but we fail, and the DMS failed to find our submarine. And again, 2 battleships, 1 cargo ship. No hit on our side. No damage ship for the Japanese. And also this light cargo ship go down. Okay, so the night battles are over. this is now the invasion, or the support bombardment of the... I think this is the invasion fleet directly. I'm not mostly sure. Yeah, it's a pre-invasion fleet. So this is the invasion fleet with additional heavy cruisers. Like I always try to get at least 2 heavy cruisers and the invasion fleet directly to suppress enemy fire. Simply to not get any coastal gunfire hit our cargo ships. So that these coast guns are busy with fighting the heavy cruisers or battleships. So it's now the evening or the night of 13th December and we are landing in Mersing. So it is still in the first week, let's say, of the war, but 1 week after this war starts, we try our invasion and attack on Mersing. If you have the 1 day turn set up, it's maybe possible to attack 1 day or 2 days earlier. In this case, you often have the problem with the 2 day turn setup that we can now land in Mersing at the first day, but we cannot attack the base at the second day because there is no macro or command combo for this. You cannot tell the task force starts the invasion. After you finish the invasion, the land forces attack immediately. This is most of the time the land forces land on the beach and then they go automatically in the defense mode, but they will not go normally automatically on the attack mode. So we lose here maybe now 1 day. If we have 1 day turn, we can normally attack immediately. So it is not the it's related to this 2 day turn setup that we will lose some time often with this kind of invasions. Yeah, here is some we simply lose some stuff because we landing here a lot of units without preparations, but we have to do this. We must get here in Mersing a army unit strong enough to hold the ground against any counterattack from Singapore. If they try to attack Mersing with 2 little units and the ally player is very aggressive, then he maybe can try to use his concentrate forces out of Singapore, and before you can get your units down to Singapore, it's more easy for the British forces to make the counterattack on Mersing. But if you have enough forces in Mersing, then it's very risky for the British. The worst thing what can happen if the allied player try to attack your Mersing but fail to defeat your units, then all the British forces are very damaged and the Japanese reinforcements will arrive maybe 1 or 2 weeks later. So it's a gamble for the British to try to force back the Japanese. But of course, if the British can destroy these landing forces, this will be a huge loss for the Japanese. Because every unit the Japanese losing early on really will reduce the upcoming battles for the Japanese. This will simply slow down the whole campaign. Of course, depending what the Japanese lose. But roughly it needs, I think, 2 weeks or up to 1 month to rebuild a unit if your unit was destroyed completely. Then you can pay with political points to rebuild the core unit, something like 10% or something will come back, and then you must reinforce this unit. So I think the whole process, if you lost a unit, will need at least 1 month, and if it's a whole division, maybe 2-3 months. So our ships try to to support attacks for the invasion, simply to reduce forces here in Mersing, soften up everything, that we get a easy victory to at least take the base. And this is, I think, more easily to achieve, take the base. And the next achievement is to hold the base. And normally also have enough forces here to strike even few more deep in the area. Normally this Mersing alone will not stop anything. You can see it's a little out of this position. The railway is running here in the west coast. So you must normally at least take this hex. Best is you take the base in the source. Then you will block completely everything. But it's really very close to Singapore, so if you have your units must be strong enough to withstand any counter attack. Don't gamble too much. Yeah, here we find a troop transport ship, maybe? Yeah. And it was even some units here. This was, yeah. Okay, thing. I think Dojo tried with this troop transport to evacuate this. There's a base force, a small base force, Australian units, and we tried to get them out. But we was quick enough here to avoid this. Normally, you can focus in this New Britannian area, the Solomon Sea. It's really up to your focus of the Japanese player. You can try to push here and go as soon as or as fast as possible to Nomaya, New Caledonian, and take New Caledonian and even Fiji. But this, if you go this way, you simply must take your units somewhere away. So my focus was more or less Malaya, Philippines first, and next Sumatra and Java. And only take really this basis is for me important. Take Rambul as soon as possible, block the other units here, and make sure that the ally player cannot reinforce Port Moresby. This is a defense position. This position itself will not really. I mean, it's nice. It's a good base. It's near to the north coast of Australia, but it have no resources. It's really only the strategic position to defend against an allied player. It will block the northern part of around of Australia, so it's normally impossible to send any troop transport ships or everything what is a surface battle or surface ships in this north pass more if you control this area. So the allied player must take first this base before he can use this street. So he must always go south of Australia. It's a strategic position. But it's normally not enough to really threaten Australia. If you want to threaten the supply lines of Australia, you need New Caledonian and maybe also Fiji. Here, two more cargo ships. And some American submarines. But nearly impossible for us to really get them. This is now our Japanese submarine try to find something in Batavia, but this I think British has destroyers, so they're really dangerous, especially in the shallow water. But at the end we only got 3 hits. This is acceptable normally for submarines. No hit again. No success. Hit but no explosion. So we was this time lucky. It's a Mark 14, so I think the chance is still low for the Americans to get a really active hit with explosion with the Mark 14, but it is possible, we saw it. But it's for us also nearly impossible to really in deep water. Okay. But also Japanese not always hit the target. So we lost one of our, I think, cruiser-based scout plane by enemy cap. This will happen. This scout planes simply are very slow. They have no armor. They have no hit points. They're easy. If there's an enemy fighter, they will often simply die. There's no way around this. Okay. So we are now more or less 1 week in the war, but we still try to lower the enemy fighter presence here in around Manila. And so far we was normally successful. We was only not maybe, yeah, I mean we lost 50 or 60 Nell Betty bombers, far too many I would say. Maybe still too aggressive gameplay with the bombers. I would simply say you better wait 1 week before you really use naval bombers. You will maybe miss some ships you can sink with this kind of naval bombers, but yeah, you maybe it's a gamble, yeah. And it's maybe really the better solution, simply because the Americans, they cannot really do so much here. The Zero fighters are normally simply too good to really have a chance. We get here some damage Zeros, but I think in the long run we will at least kill the Americans with 2-1. We also have the chance, because the way is now very short for us, and we even hold the next space to this the Clark field. So even if our pilots gets the airplane gets destroyed here, we have still a chance that the pilot can return and is only wounded. Or even if he's missing, then he maybe will come back after some time. And if we are so close to the enemy airbase, if we damage now the airplanes, it is the threat that we conquer this base is present for Dojo. So he normally need every fighter active, and if we can lower the enemy fighter presence enough, then we really can normally start the bombardment of the airfield. And once it's possible to keep the enemy fighter presence very low, and you can run every day your bombardment of the airfield, and there's normally most of the time no way more that the fighters can come back, because we damage the enemy fighters on the ground, we damage the runway, the installation, and there is then only normally the best way is in this situation to pull out with your air force and try to get it somewhere else. But in this case, there is only Manila Airport and Clark Field. So if he won't pull out of his airplanes, he can only go to Manila, but Manila is also next to my army units. So there is no safe place more for his air force to recover and rebuild. This is normally the situation best, because if you have everywhere pressure and you cannot make more sure where is a safe place, then you will maybe say, okay, then I better give. Then maybe Dojo or the allied player will give up completely and say he take all out. Then it's more easy to conquer the spaces. But so far I know everything what is damaged cannot take out more. So I think you must have a ready airplane to take it out of the base. So this is also the way why it's important to keep the pressure, damage the units. You don't must even destroy the airplane, you only keep it damage. And in the moment you take the base, everything what is damaged on the ground is automatically destroyed. So we can see that this P-40Bs, half of them are destroyed or damaged, forced to return. So maybe next turn, or latest next turn, there's really not more enough left, then we can start the bombardment of the airfields. Okay. Official, we kill here 4 and 4 without any losses. Later at the end of the turn we can check the real killing ratio. This is now the bombardment of China. I only can say, of course, if you start and use a lot of airplanes to bombard here, it will consume supplies. It's at some certain point, maybe if you realize that you maybe will, depending on your supply situation in China, if you can feed the China war area with enough supplies out of Japan, then you can keep everything running. But if you realize that you're running lower on supplies, then maybe it's time to reduce this bombardment action and maybe use more and more squadrons for training. There's only some, I think, British base forces try to escape to Rangoon, and we send some bombers to intercept them. But these are all light bombers. They don't have really much damage. Or they cannot bring the damage on the unit. Normally the key 21 is for me, if I could choose, I would simply have the, let's say, 80% of the Japanese bomber force equipped with this key 21. This bomber can load 4 bombs, each 250 kilograms, and it has some defense power, it has range. It's really, for all the bombers, so far the best. It's maybe a little slower than the key 48, but the difference doesn't matter. If there's an enemy fighter, all bombers gets killed. But we don't have this option, so we must take what we have. And this is the reason why many of these Japanese bombers, they only carry very light bombs, little in numbers, very few, and cannot really have a big impact. Here we can see it's only 2 bombs, but this is a long range attack, so only half the load. Normally the bomber can carry 4 bombs, but now we have only 2 bombs. He is the same. Okay, this is now this critical situation. If the Japanese player try to invade Mersing, you are very close to the Japanese to the Singapore air base. So, if it was possible for the Japanese to maybe kill some bombers already in the landing operations here in Kota Baru and Kuantan, then you will have here less enemy engagement power. And we can see these bombers are not important. I would really say if there's now 20-30 torpedo bombers coming and every torpedo bomber is loaded with a torpedo, and you cannot kill most of these torpedo bombers or force them to return, then you will maybe suffer here a big setback. But let's hope here for the best. This is simply based on Kuantan, the local cap power I can bring, but it's really it's the question of your zeros, where you use your zeros. I use my zeros primarily now in the fight of Manila and Clark Field, because I say the zeros fight against the P-40s in Manila, and there are 30 or 40 of them, and they are the biggest threat. Here in Malaya, the enemy fighters are all Buffaloes. The Buffaloes compared to P-40 much weaker. So I say I use my strongest fighter to fight the enemy's strongest fighter, and I use my second strongest fighters, in this case this is Oscar 1A and Oscar 1B and some nades to counter this threat. These fighters are like before. They don't really have the killing power, but at least they can damage the enemy airplane and force them to return. This is the most important. It is only critical in this turn and the next turn. We must finish the landing of the forces after we took the base. Our forces can much more quickly unload units, and it's only simply dangerous if the unit is on the ship and then it gets sunk. Then all the guys are killed, most of them. But if the unloading was successful and then you lose the ship, yeah, but most important is that your army forces is ready to defend the base. We can see here now that we make critical hits, but it's simply not enough. We force the enemies to maybe return to base, but we will not wipe out here the enemy forces. But still we were successful, we coming from behind. The number one goal for this kind of intercepting is always that at least one of our fighters can attack the bomber formations. The first attack on the bomber formation already will lower later the hit chance of this formation, because but I think you must have at least one damage. I don't know if it's an attack or a damage on the airplane. Maybe we get over, at least we can get one kill. And more damage. Critical hit, but only damage. These two airplanes really, they have the same two light machine guns, so they really have the same damage output. It's simply only that the Oscar is much faster than the Key 27. This is the improvement from this Key 27 old type. The Oscar is much faster, but I don't would say it's a fast airplane. The purpose of this kind of airplane is still the classic dogfight. Have very short cycles to turn the airplane and make the close range dogfight in the air. The Dojo and the Zero is I think a mix and multi-rule more. The Dojo is already going more for speed. Means you try to come from above, you make an attack run, and then you try to escape, and then you turn around a long time, and then you come back again. You don't make this close engagement. You always try to attack with speed, make the critical hit, and return. But this is a change of aircraft design, just starting in the end of 30s, I would say, or mid of 30s. Now we can see that out of this attack, only 4 bombers make an attack on the APD, I think. So I think a destroyer transporter. So it was a lot of air battle, and it was for us a successful, because we forced so many enemy fighters to return or to stop the attack, and only 4 bombers was successful, and they maybe get so nervous or out of position that they cannot get a hit on our ship. So it was for us a success. It's really not the main purpose to kill the enemies, simply to block the attack. Now we can try to kill some more, but Not with this kind of fighters. So we really not damage or kill much, but we mostly block the attack. So now we have the torpedoes bomber coming. So first our invasion fleet have the flak attack. So we kill one already on the way to the air battle. This is always lucky. Now we have also some zeros. So and the enemy escort fighters are very low in numbers compared to ours. And the best is that we have now the 9 zeros with us. And the zeros simply can really make easy end of this threat. This Oscars simply they can make so much hits on the buffalo, but now we can force at least the buffalo back. If a zero make a hit, then often it's a kill or it forces the enemy to return to base. Okay, now we attack the wildebeest. So the escort fighters are more or less defeated, or we penetrate the escort fighter wing. We coming now close to the enemy bomber formation, and now we try simply to make at least we try to damage at least most of these airplanes, and that they also have to return, break the attack, or even can kill them. You can see they returning. They simply don't have more the wish to continue this attack. If this is logic or if this makes sense is the other question. I mean, if the fighters are now very close to the bomber formation, then I would say why they don't want to finish this. How the bombers can simply say, okay, I give up, bye-bye. Normally now they are in the critical situation. But this is, I think, I don't know, this is the game. So the Blenheim, they escape, but we can now, means we have, we can focus our attacks on the enemy torpedo bombers. That for us, it's not so bad. I would say, okay, I let the Blenheim escape because these are level bombers. For me, it is more important to get rid of the torpedo bombers. Okay, but still some want attack. We get this 500-pound bomb, but still better a bomb and not a torpedo hit. And we can also see that the formation is broken. They coming these four fighting together. They making one attack and making 2 hits. So this cargo ship, I think, is now more or less dead. There's 3 bomb hits. Ooh. Okay. But maybe at least we get one more kill. Yeah, okay. So I would not say it's perfect, but we killed and damaged some airplanes, and 1 cargo ship, 1 bomb hit is maybe acceptable. 3 bomb hits, of course, is normally too much. But we lost not really too much here. Okay, it's acceptable. I mean, only 3 the engineers are really gets destroyed. The rest are disabled. So if we can still unload the units, maybe they're disabled, but they are already on reach the land, the beaches, so they can recover out of this. So we intercept the bombers, we break the attack. Most important, no real kill. Not a big kill, but the main task was successful. Break the attack. There is, of course, maybe the option, but this is, you must manage this, that you bring your carriers very fast and quickly in this position to make a close air support with the carriers. But it is possible, I would say, but it's also not so easy. But it's an option to try to use more carrier support nearby. But the Kiduputai is simply too far away. If you attack Pearl Harbor, you cannot be here, and you are Malaya at the time. And the other carriers are often normally some they have the A5 fighters, so this is they don't have the power to really support this, and other carriers they also have not the best setup. So I normally call them all back to Japan and rearrange this and reorganize my second carrier fleet. It's also dangerous to have 1 or 2 support carriers. These carriers alone have not enough striking force to defend themselves, so if there's some British bombardment coming, then maybe you will lose them, or they get damaged and they must return to port and stay in the shipyard for a long time. I'm not a fan of this. I like to concentrate my strikes more. And this is the option, what I said before. Normally after the first surprise attack on Manila, maybe use the Betty and the Nell simply to help here in China for 1 week. And after 1 week, if you can make sure that there's no fighter threat more in Philippines left, then you can use maybe the Navy bombers more for Navy attack. But again, this is the first match I ever played against like a human. Before I only fight the PC for training, and of course the PC not really the AI not really use the best tactics. Dojo is simply much more skillful, and that is the reason why the Japanese Navy bomber fleet suffer so terrible at the beginning. And again, still Dojo try to stop the invasion. And yes, I mean, I would also say, for the British it is hard to stop these two invasions. But if the British focus all the air power here in Singapore and try, this is, and say, this area is the area we try to defend. As the Allied player, I would also say better throw here everything in this moment on this invasion fleet. Because if you hit something, it will hurt. If the unit is already finished the assault and reach the beaches, it's much more complicated to really destroy a unit by air attacks. So I would say Dojo did what was correct. The question is only if he maybe was hard to say, if he used the right setups, if he maybe must. I think he make a standard attack of 8,000 feet altitude. These bombers have not very much experience, so maybe better go lower. Of course, lower means that you will suffer more from flak damage. But I don't know. I don't play the allies, so I don't know how to optimize the defense of Singapore so much. I try simply how I optimize the landing of my layer, how I can get as many forces as quickly, as fast as possible on the beaches, and how I cut the lines of retreat to simply pocket the northern British units and kill them first, and in the second operation take Singapore. We can see we stop the attack, but we don't get really many hits. So only one escort fighter is still between us and the bombers. And again from behind. But okay, we damage at least. And must return to base. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, these torpedo bombers, they are very slow, they have really low hit points. So even our Nate and Oscar 1As normally can kill this kind of airplanes. But the normal level bombers, they more tough. They see, with this kind of light fighters, you need to hit them many times to really down them. If you're lucky, you damage them enough that they simply give up on return. I think in this way also. Okay, this 3 comes through. But no. Okay. 1 critical hit and 1 kill. So again, we destroyed at least some of them and forced most of them to return and damage some additional fighters. Here I try simply to attack the units. Our Dojo more or less he realized that he cannot hold this because it's nearly impossible. So we try to escape not to Singapore, and I simply attack all the units I can find before I scout this area, and then every unit, at least I have at least one attack for every unit, at least one attack. So if I damage a unit, then normally often the units can not walk more and stop, change to combat mode and something like this. So it will simply most importantly, it slows the retreat of these British forces, so that I have enough time to take the base and block the street. Once you block the street, there's no escape mode. Here we intercept the enemy tanker. A British tanker, looks like. And he had an escort. So we was lucky, we found the escorted tanker and can get at least 1 torpedo hit inside. Maybe it will sink, maybe, but tankers are often a little more tough. The problem is only if the tanker starts to burn, then the ship is lost. So something just sunk, so maybe it was the tanker. So additional landings. Here we rush with our tanks forward and clean the street so that the rest of the forces don't must even fight. They can immediately walk to the center Mandaya area. And this was, I think, Chinese forces we hit and destroyed or damaged already before. And now we, I think, completely wiped out the core, and then there's only a shell left. Not destroyed, but not more much left to fight. So it needs 1 or 2, 3 months to completely recover in the bigger city. Also here. Only 2 squads destroyed, the rest disabled. And you can see these numbers, you know already. This is the beginning of this for Dojo, a disaster of China. For the Japanese glorious Imperial Army, it is of course only one additional victory in a long line. And here was, I think, this. I think this was, yeah, this is a recon regiment. So this is only something like a light tank unit. It's much faster than the rest of the army, and I use this normally not primarily to attack the base and take the base, but force the base for, I mean, the British Malayan units here to take the battle and force them in the combat mode and stop them from running away. It was not a successful attack, but the main purpose is simply only hold them here, bind them here, so they cannot escape. So they are because in 1 or 2 turns the rest of my army will arrive here, and then I can destroy them. And in 1 or 2 turns I'm already cut maybe here the road and the source. So if they can run out this turn, then maybe they can still escape. But now I think they're trapped. Yeah, this was a jungle fight and not successful, but this is only a Navy Guard unit. Their main purpose is normally to make an invasion and take the beaches. They are not really very strong in this kind of land battles. Yeah. This is now our invasion fleet, but this is an allied bombardment, so this is automatically. This unit was an auto defend, and you can see what we land in this first turn. A lot of anti-aircraft equipment, a lot of artillery equipment, and some. These are the core defend unit. Not so much power, but it's from the original game setup. Most important is we have here a lot of guns and tanks. So Dojo tried to make an artillery strike on us, but this fails because we have much more guns ready to counter this. Now that island simply changed the owner because our armies is nearby and there's some calculation. I don't know if you have an army nearby and there's no base forces in the hex, then the owner can change automatically. So we're still unloading maybe some units, or we're making support attacks, and maybe the units are already at the beach, but now we're unloading supplies. Here we find a small cargo ship, I think, arrive in Port Moresby, or on the way back. Most important is the cargo ship is dead. And this is a Dutch submarine. Find one of our cargo ships. If we are lucky, we can return to a port, but we will see. There. No luck here. Now the Dutch sub have a second torpedo hit, and then I think the cargo ship is more or less lost. Now heavy damage. And there we lost the cargo ship. But this is war, and it's not possible to completely avoid this. And the Dutch submarines are really good. I think they're equally good to the Japanese submarines. So if our submarines can sink Allied cargo ships, and of course the Dutch can also sink our own cargo ships. Yeah, this is some bombardment, but yeah, it's hard to say if it really makes sense to bombard the southern part of the Philippines so early on, especially because the battleship rearm the battleships. You normally, most of the time, you must go back to Hong Kong or Taiwan, so the distance is a little critical. Maybe you better use this kind of ships to find and hunt more cargo ships, not for bombardment, or only bombard if you really want to invade the unit in the base. I mean, we do damage here, and we put pressure on this base and burn supplies. This was the main purpose for me here, to damage the bases, and this means I force Dojo to use supplies to repair this. And at the same time, if the Japanese can block the sea, so no additional supplies arrive at the Philippines, then these base forces will starve earlier and more seriously. Yeah. Again, no luck with enemy destroyers. But even if you can kill this kind of 5-point World War One destroyers, it will not really have any impact. The destroyers are weak against submarines, and they don't have really fighting value. Not now. Later you can upgrade them, yeah, but now it is, I think, more important to sink enemy tanker, sink enemy troop ships. Cargo ships maybe not also good to sink, but out of what the Japanese normally must kill is first enemy tankers and troop transport ships, because I think this is what the Allies lack most at the beginning of the war. If you sink some cargo ships, I think that have no big impact. There are simply too many cargo ships for the Allies. But if you can sink not most, but many tankers, then Dojo is, or the Allied players is forced to use cargo ships to transport oil, and this has only half the efficiency, and this will burn more fuel, because if a cargo ship tries to transport oil, it can only load half the capacity, but still use the same amount of fuel to operate. And if you force cargo ships to use to transport fuel, then they cannot transport so much supplies and other equipment. So I did this so far never. I really use only AOs and tankers for transport of crude oil and fuel, and I use, of course, only the cargo ships to transport supplies and equipment. But depending on what you have and what you are missing, you maybe must do this. And for the allies, as well, other maybe kind of thinking. The Allies have everything, too much. They have normally enough from every kind of units. It's simply only if the units are at the right place. So we just got the mine hitting feedback, so something just hit the mine, and it was not a Japanese ship hit the mine. So we put some mines here in Singapore, and we had some mines here in the Bay of Manila. So maybe one of Dojo's ships just hit this. Okay, our formation finds still 2 more cargo ships. Okay, this is a navy problem. Not too much activity, but so sightings, and we lost again one of our scout airplanes. Some bad weather, okay. Our Zero is coming back to Manila. There's still at least one fighter. And that fighter is now damaged in return. Okay, one more. And we get the kill. This is, of course, always the best. The P-35 are normally not the threat. They're similar to the Japanese Ki-27. We have still can damage the bombers if I would attack now the airfield, but yeah, damage, yeah, but they don't have normally the firepower to destroy the bomber fleet so much. But the P-40 is still fear. So long they are P-40 in the Philippines, the flying cap, I would not really use the bombers so much. But it looks like there's not more so many left. And now at least is one less left. Yeah, and we can see sometimes the zeros are losing the battle still. But the P-40 is okay. It's maybe not the best airplane, but it's possible to fight the zero. Even if it's only the 40B. Okay. Not the best kill ratio, but I think we damaged many airplanes, so they can not cause much trouble in at least 1 or 2 turns, I would say. Here again, we try to intercept every moving units here in the center west area of my leader, simply to slow them down. So here we have those from the Dutch Dutch bombers try to make a navy strike on our destroyers. But no success. I think his skills are not good enough to attack from this high. You must maybe go to 4,000 or something like this. Or even try to make a low navy attack, low level attack out of 1,000 feet. Then you have a high chance to hit, but of course you will suffer the flak damage. Here we can see now again the tempo from Dojo and Obiso sinks the invasion field, but latest now all the units are already at the beach. Now it's really for sure only supplies left. I think we can skip this now because they really like before we will damage most of these units and maybe break them, but yeah, it's not really that we killed most. We damage. I think we can damage a lot of them, but they all return. I mean, if you have something like this now, that there are 2 torpedo bombers coming, this is of course always nice. We damage. Where's the kill? Okay, here's the kill. And again, the damage. Oh, so 100% of the attacking wildebeests are getting destroyed, but here in the report it's only 1. Yeah. 4 more coming, and I think they're dying now. Yeah, or returning. At least maybe 1 we killed. So the strikes of dojos are many, but they are all not very strong. If there's one strong strike, it's have more punch. This many small attacks are more easy to intercept normally. Yeah. The Dutch try to bomb again. But no hit. Yeah, this is of course really, yeah, only a local minesweeper. So still unloading some equipment, or mostly maybe supplies, and we get here now 2 hits in our cargo ship. This always can happen, but yeah, maybe a little unlucky. So Dojo's forces still try to use the bombardment attack to battle our units. And I think one part here, I don't know, maybe they already was here before, but now we have a little 100, 200, 300, 400, maybe 400 attack value already here. And again we have the far more guns. So we can see nearly 1 to 8, 1 to 9 now. Enough to normally attack the base and take Mersing with the next round. So now we're at 15th December 41, and we have here the kill ratio of 37 to 7 in the air-to-air battle. This is of course still very good for us. Operation losses are equally, and the rest is also nothing too special, but today we kill 8 P-40 Warhawks. I think this is Philippines, and also the P-35 are Philippines, so these are the 16 fighters in the Philippines. The Buffaloes are in Malaya, also the Swordfish from Malaya, Blenheims maybe Malaya for sure, Malaya, and then we lost here some air-to-air, so these are scout planes from our cruisers, or submarines can also be. If you operate a nearby enemy base with cap, of course you will simply lose this. It's not really, no possibility normally to avoid this. Or if you don't let your scout planes scout, then you will not lose them, but then you can start, maybe you can say training only, but training alone will not win the war. And we also killed the better one, the P-40E-2. So not so bad. And what we lost is the scout planes. We lost one Oscar 1B by operation losses. 1A, I don't care, this is a really shitty airplane. And 1-0. Okay, so if you have the 1-0 and kill so many allied fighters, so 50 to 16, this is a good kill ratio. Still, the kill ratio is only 3 to 2 roughly, but they're mostly, if you deduct now 50 Betty Nell bombers, and it's a 300 to 150. This would be better, but I simply fail at the beginning with this. And at this situation we have, I think, maybe already one ace. So this is our ace fighter. He is here in Malaya. In San Fernando, he have already 5 kills. I think it was this squadron. Oops. Kill up. No, not this one. The other one. Here we can see. Yeah. This squadron will only have 9 kills compared to this squadron have 56 kills already in this short time. And we lost so far 1 ops losses to written off 7 kills by air-to-air battle. But if you calculate this and say, okay, we lost 10 airplanes but we killed 56, then it's of course a very good ratio. And this is why we have an ace. And you can see the golden name always means that the experience is over 80. So this is elite pilots. And this is the elite pilot with ace level. But if the ace level is only honor name, or I mean, it's an ace, but I don't know if it really gives any benefits. But we can say that latest 1 week after the war we have already an ace. Okay. And we have here now the forces and Mersing with 550 attack value, so we take now the base. The problem is this is a 2-turn battle, so now we can attack already last time, then we have the base now, then we can walk out now. But because it's a 2-day turn, we can first attack now, the first day, and the second day we're waiting. And then we can first walk after that out. That is a handicap now with the 2-day turn. It's simply slow down everything a little. But this rule applies for both sides, so also for the allies it can be sometimes maybe slower. And we have here now, oops, I think this is wrong. Here we must check. So we have here now the air headquarter and flag and some construction stuff that we can normally simply repair the port and the airfield and operate here quickly with our air force. Because this is airfield 4, it's really enough to cover all this area with your fighters. This is why I have my fighters here. And you can see that they have already some kills, like 16, 8, and 11, and 26. And you must always compare this kill ratio with your own losses. So 5 to 26. This is 5 to 11. But this machine simply have not the firepower. And yeah, like this. Yeah. This is this Navy Guard unit try to battle this forces, but normally the Navy Guard units are really there for small island attacks, not a real land battle unit. Better you maybe use them for then defense something. Take some small island and hold this, and then if you really want to fight something you need army units, not this Navy Guard units. Yeah. So we bring the main of our forces here around because there's an issue with the road. This is a very small minor road, so if you walk this way it's very slow. You better always try to use this Bordeaux red highways, or at least this bloody red standard roads. Not this pinky one. They are simply very slow to walk on. Yeah. And China is not so much still happened. It's we still only try to focus here more and more on the way of Xi'an, and we try to bring up here forces and organize here stuff. We kill these forces in the at the gate of Changsha and force them back. Then we can get rid of this unit maybe, and after that we can return with this roughly 1014 forces back and focus. Normally after you clean up this start forces, you organize your units and then you try to what I did is I try to focus on Nanyang from the source and from the east side and bring here all the units to Xi'an. And so we can also see here that the Manchukuo garrison is now very low. I think it was last time similar. So, but this number will always increase because in Manchukuo there are many forces with under strength. This is okay. But you have often this kind of many disabled units, and after turn by after turn they getting this disabled back to active, and then you get more and more garrison power here in Manchukuo, and then you can choose to take some out again and again. We can maybe check what we sunk for ships. I think this was forgot. So last turn the Japanese lost this one. This is by the Dutch. One, it's a classic cargo ship. It's a good cargo ship, but nothing too special. It's standard. Maybe we have 100 of this, so it will not hurt too much. And there was no unit on this ship. And the Allies lost one good troop transport, and the rest is okay cargo ship, similar to our cargo ship, and the rest is just so, nothing special. The most important is really to organize this the reinforcements out of Japan, to organize the forces in China quickly as possible, and secure your landing operations to not load the units and then immediately have a tactic and deeper strategic thinking how which unit you want go where and why. He keeps his forces busy in the north of Manila and at the same time try to cut the line here and then trap the units and get rid of them before they can retreat to Singapore. We can see now in Singapore that we have some scout information but nothing too special. We only know their ships, of course. But it's not my focus now to focus for. I mean, I would not attack Singapore before you not get rid of this Malayan forces, because to do both is very risky. And we also land here now more and more forces south of Manila. Wait. Where must now we? No, it's not working. So we have here some tank and some. The first units arrive, I would say, but it still needs some time to get here more and more forces. So I see here that dojos try to intercept our units and maybe fight with them, but maybe we are fast enough. And we also walking with our units already southwest. So we are on the way to, and we arrive next turn already. Okay. Next turn we normally arrive in Clarkfield. Okay, and not much happened here because also here you must organize a lot of stuff. The carriers are back next turn, then we can rearm and then normally you can use this carrier fleet to help in the battle here in Indochina and Indonesia. Or I think what I did is I try to use this carrier and try to mess up with Dojo's forces here in New Caledonia and Fiji. But we will see. The next turns are coming. So I would say thank you all. See you again. Take care. Bye bye.